So this week I thought we'd talk briefly about layer styles. Now, layer styles, you probably think very simple things like a drop shadow, an outer glow, a simple stroke. Who knows? But you may or may not realize that layer styles are much, much more powerful than that. You can achieve a lot of very interesting effects simply by using layer styles. In this case, we're going to create some text that has kind of a glassy look to it, and the image is going to distort through that glass, all using layer styles. Well, here I have an image of the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco, and this is not an accident. It's actually kind of a silly plug because I'm going to be in San Francisco in October teaching at the Voices That Matter conference. So, check it out. I'll be there. Make sure you're there. Anyway, we're back to layer styles and glass effects. All right, I'm going to go into my image here. Let's go and select our text tool, and I'm just going to click inside my area to begin setting some text, and let's just type the word glass. So, kind of center this in place, right about like that. I'm going to go ahead and fill this text with white. You can see it's gone ahead and filled it with black because that was the foreground color, but I'm going to go ahead and fill it with white by pressing Command, Delete, that'd be Control, Backspace on a PC. So there we have it. Actually, I'm going to turn this layer off because I'm going to do one more thing here. I'm actually going to duplicate this background layer. And on that duplicate, I'm going to go under Filter and go to Distort, Glass. And we will get this big window here, and let's change the settings here. I'm going to leave the distortion... Actually, let's make the distortion a little high up there. And I'm simply probably doing this for the sake of demonstration. It's probably a little bit more exaggerated than I'd probably do it normally, but I think you'll get the idea. So, using the frosted texture and keeping the scaling... Actually, let's not go quite that high. Let's go around 120. And the distortion and smoothness relatively high, just so it gets an obvious distortion there. So once I'm happy with that, I'll just hit OK. Now, I'm going to go under the Image menu, and making sure nothing else is visible but that glass layer. I'm going to go under the Image menu, or Edit menu rather, and go to Define Pattern. So we've defined a pattern of this entire glass distorted layer. And we'll hit OK. So now I no longer need that layer, so I'm going to go and throw it away. So let's go back to our text. Well, let's go into the layer styles, and let's make sure we got that layer highlighted. Go into layer styles, and we're going to choose Bevel and Emboss. And we're going to apply several different effects here, but we're going to start with Bevel and Emboss. And a simple Bevel and Emboss looks pretty good. Now we're going to go down here to Pattern Overlay. And I'm going to go into the pattern menu here, and we're going to search out that pattern we just created, which was that glass distorted layer, which should be the last thing in this menu right here at the bottom. So I click on that and hit OK. Now, here's a problem. Let me move this window out of the way. While I'm still in layer styles, I can go in here and do some stuff. With the pattern overlay selected, if I click, you can see that it's not lined up. That bridge is way over here when it should be lined up with this image here. Well, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to uncheck Link with Layer. And then I'm going to click Snap to Origin. There you can see it pops it right into position. And the distortion is only appearing inside the text, which is perfect. That's exactly what we want. Well, let's add a few more things. Well, I'm going to add a stroke. And we're going to change the fill type to pattern. And no, we're not going to use the same pattern we just used, but we're going to use this one right here. And... actually, no, I want it to be this one. This is a preset pattern. You should have it. It's the top right corner here. And I'm going to change the position of this stroke to the inside. I'm going to change the blend mode to overlay. So it gives me that kind of a sharp edge look to it. I'm actually going to increase the size to about 5. So that's giving me a really interesting glass edge effect there. That looks pretty good. I'm going to finish this off by adding a satin here. Just clicking on satin, but I'm going to change it to white. I'm going to click on the swatch here, change this to a white color. Hit OK, and then change the blend mode to something a little lighter. Let's try screen. That looks pretty good. I'm going to change the contour to something a little bit more rigid. That looks pretty good. Let's change the size up a little bit here. just to give it that kind of refraction of light that glass typically has on its surface, just like that. And it kind of enhances the distortion of the image that's going on here. And let's separate it from the background a little bit more by adding a drop shadow. So that looks pretty good. Let's change the angle. Oh, we're not changing the angle of the drop shadow. And make sure you, another key point here, when you're using multiple layer styles, make sure you've got the one highlighted that you want to edit. Because if you change something and it's not highlighted, you're going to find yourself in a lot of troubleshooting. Anyway, highlighted shadow, let's change that direction of the shadow, and let's increase the distance and the size. Just about like that. Alright, now I'm going to hit OK. So now you see we've got a glass look of the text, and that image is being distorted behind it. Now, if I grab the text and move it around, watch what happens to the background image. It's distorting as I drag it around in place. So no matter what I do, where I position this, maybe I'm generating a design and I want it to be up here. Well, if all of a sudden I decide I want it at the bottom, I don't have to go through the pains of redistorting and repositioning my distorted image. It's all part of that layer style. So I can just position it anywhere I like. And here's the even best part. This is still editable text. If I go in here and put, here, let's just put my name. Why not? There you can see the distorted pattern has retained. No matter what I type, all that text effect is going to stay in play. It's going to distort the text or distort the image because of that pattern that's inset inside that layer styles. So all this effect is contained within the layer style here. Now I can copy and paste this layer style, these layer styles to a new graphic, to a new image, anything I want. But you can see the power of simply using layer styles to generate very interesting effects.